Hi. We live in a world where they say you got to constantly learn. For learning, you need to go to a school, college, maybe even do online learning, do formal learning. Uh, Schooling is important. I went to an engineering school, went to a business school, uh, but it's also said there are many people who dropped out of school, college, and have had good lives. They've had successful businesses. They've had impact on society. Uh, Sometimes these dropouts are very successful. They're also unique in the way they've built what they've built. I'm not sure I'm advocating dropping out of college, but there are many Indian entrepreneurs who've dropped out of post graduation, some have dropped out of graduation, and they've done well. Some had no formal education, so they didn't drop out of college, but they didn't have formal education. They were very wise. So, on this edition of Dropout, uh, and this show is about people who have dropped out of formal education at some stage of their formal education and have pursued their passion, tried multiple things, failed at some, succeeded at some, and then built a successful life and career, making impact through what they love. Confucius said, "You make your hobby your profession, you don't have to work." Some people are like that. Today, we are going to talk to a young entrepreneur uh, who dropped out of college when a school when he was in 12th. He came from Pune to Mumbai. He said, "I want to go to Mumbai," to his parents. His dad possibly was a little okay. His mom wasn't okay. Came, did some businesses. Today, uh, he's made a name for himself. He's made a mark. He's also building a business which is doing well and hopefully will do better and better. Let me welcome Vedant Lamba on this show of The Dropout. Vedant,
Thank you for having me, doctor.
yeah, you can call me AB.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
cool name.
Vedant, do you like being called a dropout?
I mean, I don't mind it. I don't think it's something I identify by, but I don't have an issue
Yeah,
with the
people
title.
glamorize. I've met people who tell me, "Oh, we dropped out." Like, you're too educated, Anurag. They tell me they're like in some way they're saying we are much more successful than you in spite of being less educated than you. So, how do you think about yourself? How's your life panned out? You told your dad and mom that you want to drop out of 12th and
Yeah,
you want to go to Mumbai. That's what you told your
yeah,
parents?
yeah. No, so it wasn't like a conscious decision to drop out per se. It's not something I chased or something that I wear as a badge of honor per se. Um, I actually failed my 12th grade boards because I just wasn't particularly interested, and I did take the decision to experience a gap year post my 12th grade. So I had taken the decision to have the gap year before my 12th grade results came out, and I didn't know I had failed at the time. And in the course of that time, I was very curious to build multiple things already, and I felt like Mumbai is where it's at. So I hopped on a bus and I came down to Bombay. Yeah, and my parents were unreasonably supportive, if I think that would be the right way to say it. And yeah, I spent that year living in Bombay, very broke, very curious, all over the place. And over the next couple of years, I think I found something that I really wanted to build and dedicate a large chunk of my life to, and I've been doing that since.
Brilliant. Your book could be called Broke and Curious.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but and tell us, how did you then learn? How did you come to know about business? How did you set up Main Street? I know you tried a bunch of businesses, export, import,
Yeah,
media,
yeah, yeah,
other businesses.
yeah,
How did you get into Main Street? For those who are watching, you know Vedant from his YouTube channel, Main Street, and then he set up a very successful retailing business of lifestyle products, started with sneakers and shoes, but then went on to the whole accessories that come with it and so on and so forth, and then launched his own brand called Gear.
yeah,
So, how did Main Street happen? How
yeah.
did Gear happen? How's the journey been?
Yeah, so I mean, I was, I think, since school, very, very comfortable on the internet, and I felt like YouTube is where I first managed to find a community that I identified with, and there were, creators and channels from around the world that were really interesting to me, and I'd watch and spend a lot of time going through that. And I always wanted to do something. It just the internet sort of made you believe that you can just do things. You know what I mean? And I felt like growing up in a very traditional sort of school environment in Pune in India, typically you're not really told that you can do things. You're usually told you can't do things. And the internet sort of seeded this idea in my head that hey, if you want to do something, you should just do it. And if you want it badly enough, you can have it. Early on, I was tinkering with different things. I was photography and videos and shooting videos and editing. And then I wanted to build an app at some point, and I tried that, and I failed miserably. And then I wanted to build an EV platform to build like a city bike for India. I failed miserably there. I tried building, I think, a dozen other different businesses. I tried doing some import and distribution. A friend of mine and I would import unique products from China and list them on Amazon. Very, very small scale. We did a decent job there, but then that also sort of eventually, I just found myself doing a lot of things. And through the course of this time, I was running my own YouTube channel, talking about what I was doing in my day. I was vlogging, so to speak, every day for I think 700 days in a row, with the intention of being accountable to the internet, saying, "Hey, I want to build a business. I'm trying to figure out what it is." Through the course of that time, I learned about sneaker culture, and I had, I don't know, uh, an assumption, uh, a, a guess that it would grow in India, the culture would grow, and I sort of had the idea of building this business with a couple of my friends, and we launched it as a YouTube channel. It then became a store, and we've just been at it since. It hit decent scale. We hit a little bit of a rough patch. We're navigating that. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're committed to building something valuable in the long term, and I think we'll stay committed and keep at it.
Do you sleep with the cap on?
I don't sleep with the cap on.
Okay. He doesn't sleep with the cap
I
on.
don't
Okay.
sleep with the cap on.
He
No.
gets ventilation when he sleeps. I get ventilation throughout the day. But what did you learn from your first? You're 26 now, right?
Yeah.
And you started at about 18 and a half, right?
Yeah,
17.
18, 19, yeah.
Yeah. And so what did you learn from those failed ventures? I don't think anything is failure. Randy Posh said, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Uh, so what did you learn from these experiences?
A lot. I'd say, a lot of nuances on how to work with people, what works, what doesn't work, where value lies for a customer, building distribution, supply chain, product. There's not a lot from my early ventures, but through the course of building Main Street, I've learned a hell of a lot. Everything from navigating, simple fundraisers at an early stage is what we've managed to do so far, to hiring teams, scaling teams, working together with lots of people, hiring great people, which I think is, one of the key drivers of success that I feel like I might not have been able to do well early on. I think today we have an excellent team that can drive value for the next half decade at least. And we can continue scaling on the sort of fundamental base that we've built. Yeah, it was a lot of learnings every day. I feel like it's never a dull day.
Absolutely, never a dull day in the life of an entrepreneur. So, what have been your learnings? What are your top 3 learnings?
I think that saying no is more important than saying yes. Focus and focusing painfully so. Like, there was this interview with Johnny Ive recently. Johnny Ive was used to head design at Apple and did a lot of early Apple iconic product in the early 2000s with Steve Jobs. And he was talking about interactions with Steve Jobs. Yeah, he'd talk about his interactions with Steve Jobs, who'd ask him, what are the things you said no to? And Johnny would sort of name these events and marketing things that he didn't really care for. And then Jobs would sort of call him out on it, saying, I know you don't want to do these things anyway. What are the things that you want to do desperately with all your heart that you said no to? Because that is the focus that will eventually drive success. You need to be so doggedly focused on a few things that you're saying no to things that you would really, really want to do. So I think focus is definitely something that I'm still learning to, imbibe every day, and I'm hoping to get better with. The other thing is patience. I think I was in a real rush early on. And you sort of want to work with a sense of urgency, but not with a rush. They're different things. I think if you can put focus and patience together, you will be able to set really strong foundations. And the third thing is to never skip on the details. To really
say no
deep.
more often. Say no to things you want to do, but you want to achieve the things in your business. Be patient. stay focused, and as he said, very importantly, get into granularity, get into detailing. God is in detailing. Um, these laws are true for any size of entrepreneur. When you're starting out, when you build it to a certain extent, life is about trade-offs. Whatever you focus on grows. Without, you said uh, all businesses go through ups and downs. Uh, what did you learn in your not so good times,
And survival is key.
and how do you
And
survive?
I think it just takes an exorbitant amount of resilience. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you build it in tough times. Uh, and I think the key thing is to just be grateful for to be alive. I think if your business is alive, you just need to stay alive long enough for it to work out. Because of course, there's a lot of hard work and smart work and doing all the right things, but a large chunk of success, from what I've heard, comes from luck. And we're just hoping to do all the right work and be patient enough and alive long enough for us to catch a good wind.
Yeah, so somebody said the harder you work, the luckier you get, and hard work and focus go together. And I read a book called The Fluke, which I'm going to gift you. It's about serendipity, and I've always said that serendipity has a bigger role in life. We are meeting serendipitously, though we connected 6 months back. It's about chance, luck, God's wish, providence, whatever we want to call it. But yes, I mean, the plane crash, somebody who was late, she got saved because she was late. Somebody sat on the 11th row and he got out, so on and so forth. So, there is a role of luck and preordainment. I'm a Hindu Prarabdha, right? Uh, but I think we don't know that. What we definitely know is what we can do to get there. So you're right. And you're a young guy, 26. Don't you get distracted?
Yeah, definitely. I
So how do
did.
you control distractions? And
I,
how do you live a full life? So while you're building with business requires focus, it requires personal involvement. What have you sacrificed?
I, I don't feel like I've sacrificed much actually. I think I'm very excited to be working. Uh, I have chosen habits that serve me well for the most part.
And what are those habits for young people, Isha? Vedant?
I think fitness and well-being serve me really well at work. Like on a day that I'm not very well rested, I really struggle to handle the stresses that come with my job. On a day where I've
So,
gotten a good workout
so
in,
Vedant is saying in his own words, sleep is very important.
sleep
Is
is
that what you're saying?
extremely. Sleep, rest, exercise. Days that I exercise early on in the day, my day just goes that much better. Even if I exercise well at night, I sleep better. Most days my workouts are in the evening, but I think fitness and well-being, from a holistic perspective, as a lifestyle, have served me really well in navigating really hard times. And I think we've been through some really tough, sort of a really tough phase over the last year and a half, maybe. And I think taking care of my body and mind has really served me well overall at work. I think those habits are just good, and I encourage it across the board to all my friends and family.
What else? Tell us some raw, uncut things, not to say good things on the camera, but tell us some things that will really help young people. You started at 18, 19,
Yeah,
you're
yeah. I
26,
think there are
a 7,
times,
8 year
yeah,
journey.
yeah. There are times when you just don't know if it'll work out. And I think in days like that, when everything in the world tells you that hey, it's not going to work out, um, just sort of remembering that being alive is valuable enough in the world of business that if you can just manage to stay alive, you will figure it out. So sometimes not knowing the way forward, but just still keeping on going will work out for you.
I,
And
I know
navigating
what
those
you
times is hard. You got to, sometimes you have no idea what the solution is. And the thing is, after the first maybe 5, 10, 15 times, and you're like, oh, this is it, like we're dead. I think soon enough you reach a point where now when you're hit with a situation like this, you sort of trigger. There's a term for mental models like this called heuristics. You sort of trigger a heuristic in your mind that just automatically triggers the emotion to tell you that yo, this is another one of those situations. It's bad. Did you do something to make this happen? Maybe, maybe not. Was it your intent? Definitely not. Um, but we'll figure it out. We don't know how, we'll figure it out.
You take a leap of faith.
You gotta just keep betting on yourself. No matter how much the world tells you against it, you have to take that bet. And if you keep doing it long enough, you'll see signs of progress, and eventually you'll figure it out.
Okay. And Vedant, what is the role of mentors? Do you have mentors,
Yeah.
or you learn through books, videos?
Yeah.
What do you make sure feeds you? And I'm not
I'm
really
very
just of food.
blessed. No, I'm very blessed to have a wonderful circle of friends and my family who's like unreasonably supportive, like I said from the start.
That could be the name of your book. Unreasonably supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, like two names. One is called Broke and Confused, something like
Curious.
that. Curious. And the other is
Unreasonably supportive. Yeah. So I mean, my dad's been a mentor to me from day one. I've learned a lot from him growing up. You know, I just
don't
remember.
blame everything on your dad. Yeah.
You know, whatever good I have is all thanks to him. I think the bad is all me. But yeah, I just remember every like drive home from school, we'd talk about these interesting concepts that he'd introduced me to, and he was so excited to always share.
By the way, for those who don't know Vedant's dad, he is Mr. Lamba and Mr. Anil.
Dr. Anil.
Dr. Anil Lamba, and he is a chartered accountant, a practicing chartered accountant who got into writing books, and he's written bestsellers. 7 books, 8 books is out. It's about financial literacy. It's about romancing the balance sheet. It's about why finance and finance knowledge and knowing that for business is very important. So he's very successful in his chosen field. He's a trainer, so you definitely can pick up things from your dad.
And then I've been very lucky to learn from a lot of very successful entrepreneurs who have been investors, partners, friends in my journey. I continue to learn from them. Yeah.
Tell me, what have you learned from other investors, mentors, friends? Tell us 1 or 2 things that
I've read extensively of times when large businesses almost died, and very often reading stories. There was a book that I was very fond of called How I Almost Blew It by the late Siddharth Rao. Very unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago.
Good friend of mine, because I remember meeting him in the early days, Web Chutney, and
Yeah, really unfortunate what happened. So he wrote this wonderful book called How I Almost Blew It. It ran through stories of a lot of big Indian businesses and times when they almost died. I remember reading that and just thinking, damn, if these guys got through this, I feel like we'll make it. And I feel like most entrepreneurs sort of share a trauma or stress, and I feel like having that around you. And I'm again very lucky to have multiple friends who are great founders and incredible operators, and just sort of sharing that pain reduces it. It normalizes it.
Which are the other? You talk about books. Which are the top 3 books you read?
I'm really fond of Zero.
Unfortunately, Siddharth called me. He wanted me to review the book, and he when he started, he was very close to me. I introduced him to a lot of, but in between, I think he got busy. I got busy. He had a different set of circles. And so he had I didn't meet him, but he did tell me about the book. He sent me the book. Which are the other books? So young people read books, huh?
Yeah, you must read.
No, but young people read books. There's a fallacy that young people.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah,
no. There are some people say, oh, they're only watching short video.
No.
They're consuming content in all formats.
Yeah, so there's a cool book called The Dip by Seth Godin. I'm really fond of that.
I've tried to get Seth Godin to India like 20 times. I've written mails to him. So India's too far.
That's rough.
He has a hairstyle like me. I have a little more hair than him.
Yeah. And then I really like Naval Ravikant. It's become very popular
recently. Yeah. So, again, I must tell you, Vedant, I read a lot of books. I know a lot about these things. And I'll tell you, when I see the bestseller list, normally any book on that, sometimes they are too hyped up and not. I read Naval Ravikant's book,
The Almanac.
The Almanac, and, the Dutch guy or whatever. So the European had written it up, and the online book is free. Right? And, I realized I do 70-80% of the things subconsciously.
Nice.
Except the cold water baths, right? Or the ice baths.
Cold plunges,
Yes, that I don't do.
You should try it. Really
I live in hotels, but I've never done it. I don't.
You should try it. It's really good for the.
But it's a lovely book. I recommend it. I gifted a lot of that to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
Which are the other books?
I like
Zero to One. Purple Cow by Seth Godin?
I haven't. I haven't read
An
it.
old book, came out
I
15.
like The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
It's my top 5 books
Yeah,
by
Ben
Ben
Horowitz.
Horowitz.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of
I used it in the
Mark
presentation.
and Ben. I love what they've done with A16Z, and I think doing exceptional things over a 20-25 year time period is remarkable, right? And it's so admirable. And I just like that to date at this scale they take such audacious bets. I think backing Adam Newman with his new startup after the WeWork debacle is, it's incredibly gutsy to do that, being so front facing and things like that. So I'm really fond of their work. Um, Same with Peter Thiel. I love people who at um, over extremely long periods of time go against the wave, follow their own paths and don't really pander to uh, PR, so to speak.
But there, without taking names, or take names, the people who are idolizing people like Elon Musk. I asked in entrepreneurship, we look up to Elon Musk. He's doing all the wrong things just because he got something successful.
Yeah.
I mean, look
No, I
at their
don't think
behaviors. The
I don't
talk.
think we should. Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying everybody is. They should support whoever they believe in. That's their right.
Yeah.
We don't believe in them, but you know,
I feel like the concept of role models is a bit flawed. I think we look at people as complete. I feel like your role models should be characteristics that you like across various people. Like
so
I
you're
feel like,
being eclectic. This
yeah, I think growing up it was always there's certain things I really like about my father that I have been, very grateful to imbibe from him. But there's also things from someone like an Elon Musk or a Mark Andreessen or an Adam Newman or maybe even a Baiju Ravindran in a more Indian scenario. The things that these people have done that are exceptional that might not have worked out.
What has happened to him is, but I have met him and in the past in 2020, and what he was doing was right. Of course, what has happened after that?
No, I feel like everybody is doing certain things, and I think it's important to learn. And for me,
right things.
A lot of my personality even comes from certain TV show characters that I watched growing up that I was really fond of. There's a show called White Collar. There's a character named Neil Caffrey who's just so slick and stylish and super cool. And I remember growing up being like, well, I want to be like this, when I grow up.
Well, when I grow up, I want to be like Vedant Lamba. I may not grow up, but
so there's 5-7 shows that I feel like I've just picked character traits.
Which are the others?
There's a show called Psych, where there's this sort of hyper attentive dude who masquerades as a psychic detective helping out the local sort of police department, and he's just a really fun
Where do you
like
get
guy.
time to watch? You run a business, or
This is growing up. This is all growing up. I haven't watched any of these.
You're like me.
This is when I was in school. These are my favorite shows. I haven't been able to watch anything in a long time. And I think common myth that entrepreneurs don't have time. I feel like I have all the time in the world.
By the way, yesterday I bought a book called Time Anxiety.
How's that?
I've not yet. I just flipped through the table of contents. I've not yet read it, but seems like a good book.
Nice. Yeah.
So there is a book. So a lot of people have anxiety about time. A lot of people have about wealth.
Yeah, I think that is one of the other big learnings I've had. Is just understanding that you have all the time in the world, that time's not running out. And I had this fear because when we hit early success, I was very young, 20 to 23 years old, and there was a lot of.
And how do you define success, Vedant?
I think if you're able to build something that has multiple stakeholders that are happy, I think that's success.
Brilliant. Now let's come to your venture.
Yeah.
The Main Street.
Yeah.
What made Main Street successful?
I think having built a community around what we were doing, I think from a more objective perspective, we were able to drastically drop our cost of customer acquisition. In a low margin business, CAC is extremely important, and we were able to completely negate that by building organic reach and community. A lot of that was brand positioning and finesse that I think is something that came naturally to me. A lot of the other things are things that don't come naturally to me that I'm learning, that we've made a lot of mistakes with, that we're navigating. There's that, and there's, of course, market dynamics. We're navigating all of that now, and I feel like I've learned a lot of that. I think what will make us successful long term is the fact that we have very clear perspective on where there is something large and impactful to build, and that we are able to be extremely resilient in the hardest of times and adapt quickly. So we have learned a lot of things that we weren't good at. We've been able to develop them internally and been really, really doggedly focused on it, and sort of really written off and looked away from the things that initially distracted us, which was the good PR and so on and so forth. So when things were not great, while we could have continued running good PR, looking back, I'm extremely proud that I took the decision to shut all of that off, even though it came so naturally and easily and organically. Shut it all off to really feel the pain of what was wrong. I feel like this sort of suffering that we've been on for the last 2 years is something I almost chose. And I'm really proud of having chosen that, because I asked myself if I was really committed to building something large over the long term. And I knew that the answer was always yes. And I said, okay, well, then intrinsically, intuitively, you know what the right thing to do here is. So at a time when things are bad, telling a journalist who doesn't really care about what's happening that things are good, it's not doing the right thing. So I shut all of that off. And I allowed sort of the negative PR to come together, and I continued focusing on what was right. And I feel like internally we've built that. And over the next couple of years, the world will see it. And I will be very proud to be, building the good PR again.
I believe if you do good work, media finds you. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
We've
and
never really
media,
spent a penny on any of it.
yeah.
It
So
just sort of happened
we
on
also
its own.
need good content.
Yeah, 100%.
So keep building what you have.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And how's Gear doing?
Gear's good. We're
How
just
did the
finding
name
our
come
ground
about?
with it. So I have a deep passion for all things tech, and I feel like Gear is and at the same time I also love fashion. I don't dress like it, but I have a really, really, really deep penchant for fashion and brand building overall. So Gear for us was this sort of intersection of, what we call form and function, where I want the product to, of course, look beautiful, but I also want it to come with some sort of semblance of utility, of it having strict function as to what it serves. It's okay if you're building a jacket, it needs to look beautiful, but you just have the highest quality material, zippers fit a certain way, pockets a certain way, etc., etc. So we're sort of figuring out a journey with that. Yeah.
In your journey, you achieved a lot. You're very young. Um, I'm not. I'm not sure I should be asking you, but do you have a bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list. No. I don't
Do you have some list?
No, not really. I just want to build something globally impactful.
And so, what's your vision for
Main Street? I think I love what LVMH has done for the world of luxury. I think we have the opportunity today to build a sort of media first house of luxury. That's what I want to do.
There's a business, Darpan was building this company where he bought content assets and he had an FMCG business, and it hasn't worked out.
What business is it?
He bought Miss Malini. He bought
Right. That's not the approach. We have a completely different approach. We don't look at media as the product. We look at media as the sort of customer acquisition funnel, which can be done profitably in and of itself. When I say media first, I mean building, and I think this is where a lot of content today is misunderstood. The numbers look like numbers, but they're not. 100,000 followers here, 100,000 followers here can mean drastically different things. I think in building dedicated fan bases, you can build personalities and you can build groups that have like deep fan bases who will consume what you sell to them, if what you sell to them has value of its own. I don't think it will solve for each other.
I agree with you. I wrote these two pieces 15 odd years back. One I wrote for Pitch. I talked about how telecom, media, and commerce will come together. And second, I said commerce will happen through content glue. It was happening in fashion 15 years back.
Yeah.
So content can be glue for commerce.
Yeah.
Whether in the physical marketplace or in an online marketplace. So I'm with you on the same page. What should we expect from Vedant Lamba in the next 2-3 years? What do you expect from yourself, Vedant?
I prefer to surprise. I'd like to surprise our audience.
A little bit. You can tell us a little bit.
Just good quality customer service. We're just hoping to build high quality customer service and to be the go-to spot for all kinds of luxury shopping is our goal over the next few years. What do I expect from myself? I think just to get more disciplined and focused and to grow the impact of what we're doing. Yeah.
How would you describe Vedant Lamba?
Easygoing. I don't take myself too seriously. I don't have any hang-ups. I'm pretty easygoing. High effort, effortless. I put a lot of effort.
It seems like very oxymoronish. High effort, effortless.
Yeah. I feel like seeming effortless takes a lot of effort.
Yes, that's true.
Otherwise, it just seems like
it's a lot of practice. It's a lot of passion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of takes, retakes, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Vedant, good to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you
Hope
so
to
much.
chat with you soon again and
Likewise.
have fun. I hope you had fun. I
I
had fun.
did. I did. I did.
And all the best with Main
Thank you.
Street and Gear and what you're doing.
Thank you.
And you can drop out being successful. You can not drop out, study in the best schools, colleges, and still be successful. There's no one way to be impactful. Be interesting, and that's what matters. Vedant Lamba is definitely interesting. He's somebody to watch out for. Keep a track of Main Street and Gear and Vedant Lamba, and we'll do well.